I'll run.
Nothing left for me to hate, so I can lay me down. My brothers on the ground, I bled today until Coyote comes to raise me up and carries me.
Well, hello everyone. Hello to yourselves. It's from ourselves. And Happy New Year, belatedly. Sorry we've been away, but I just saw, Jeff Goldblum's in the credits there. And to paraphrase Dr. Ian Malcolm, life will find a way to get in a damn way. But we are here now for you. The Scottish Rugby podcast, part of the Scottish Rugby blog universe. Or no, we're the galaxy. And then the sports social is like the universe. Hi, I'm Iain Hay. Joining me tonight, we have one of our newer contributors, Mark Riley. How are you, Mark?
Very well, thank you. Happy New Year to you and to everybody listening as well.
Okay, and he's popped up on guest spots before, but he's becoming a bit of a recurring character, I think. We might need to start paying him, Craig. Allan McDonald, how are you, Allan?
Very well. Happy New Year to you, Iain, and to everyone.
Cool. And, a bit of an old veteran at this now. Craig Manson, lovely to have you back. How are we, Craig?
Happy New Year to you all. Lovely to be back. And I'm already wishing January was over.
Every year, I mean, January is the worst this month because there's usually that extended period between pay, and it's cold and miserable. You're skint from Christmas. And it's just January, the January blues. Anyway, we're not here to talk about that. Well, we just have, so it's done. We're moving on. We're here to talk about rugby. Like I said, we are Scottish Rugby Podcast, blah, 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 Scottish Rugby blog. We are available on Apple, iTunes, yes, Spotify, wherever it is you listen to. You're listening to us now, you know this. You might be watching us on the streamings. I've noticed that don't seem to have the YouTube channel on. Oh no, I do. But most of you will be listening to this in audio format. You know where to find us. If you want to give us some money to keep our equipment up to date and pay for certain licenses and whatnot, so you can pay us through Patreon. £3 a month, or I think that's what its starting price is. You also get access to the Hugh Dan Fans Facebook page, where you can, maybe ask us to divulge things that is not fit for public consumption, but within scope of the law. Right, so I think that's all the promo government's done, isn't it? Did I forget anything, guys?
Sports Social Network.
I did that at the start.
Yeah, and also make sure you mention Doddy Aid as well. May as well get out of the way.
Yes, Doddy Aid. I don't know if some of you have heard Johnny and Grav. They've set up a challenge. Johnny's done a sort of intro thing you can find on Spotify under Scottish Rugby Podcast and whatnot. We are competing with the Rock and Roll Podcast and Doddy Aid. The winner of which will pay £50 to the Doddy Aid charity. The losers will have to pay £100. So your miles will count. I'm not sure where it is to join. My 4G's been acting up, so I'm a wounded soldier. Just leave me behind, man. I'm done for. Get to the chopper. Get out, guys. But yeah, you can sign up for that on the Doddy Aid. You all know what Doddy Aid is. And help us beat rock and roll. Help Scotland. I've noticed, I saw in the chart when it actually worked. Scotland is miles ahead, but we all knew that. Not another thing, though, which I'll get to later. So while we've been away, there has been quite a bit of news. I'm going to start with the sad news first to get that out the road. Then hopefully, cheer up. It is January after all. Sadly, of course, Peter Brown, brother of Gordon Brown, British Lions player, and is himself a 27-time capped Scotland international, playing mainly at lock forward or number 8. He died this week at the age of 83. He made his debut against France on the 4th of January 1964, and even though he was a forward, he holds the record for points scored by a forward to this day, I believe, because he was a pretty adept goal kicker. So we send our condolences and thoughts to his nearest and dearest, obviously there. Continuing the sort of bad news, Jamie Hodgson, who has been on loan from Edinburgh down at Bristol, he has suffered a quite serious tricep injury, so he's returned to Edinburgh for medical treatment. Looks like his season may be over, but we'll see how that goes. And as I alluded to earlier, this is some literally pish news. Betting company Boyle Sports did a review of Google and TripAdvisor reviews regarding people's feelings around their Six Nations experience, match day experiences at each of the stadiums. Murrayfield topped the list, even though it had the lowest number of responses. It topped the list for complaints regarding toilets, and also had the highest percentage of overall negative reviews left at 10.9%. Second was Twickenham. I think that was 8.7, which would mostly be people moaning about folk going to get beer. We kind of knew that was the case, gentlemen. We've talked about it on here before. John McGuigan, the new chairman of Scottish Rugby, he has said earmarked £10 million for development over the next 2 years, saying that was a priority. I'm not sure if any of your plumbing experts will get this, but see, once that's dealt with, what else do you think? Because it's not just the toilets that was an issue. Obviously, I said overall negative experiences was the highest. What else would you do to improve the standard of the matchday experience, Alan?
I don't think that. I mean, I think for any women that are going to Murrayfield, I think the toilets are a massive issue. Like generally, there's a couple of ladies in our row that if they go at half time, they're not back until 10 minutes into the second half. If I've got my daughter or stepdaughter with me, they tend to go sort of 5 to 7 minutes before half time, just before, so that they can go. It's difficult. Murrayfield was a good stadium experience when it's been built. Things have moved on, but there's not a lot of space to change things. So I think that might be tricky to make massive changes. But I think the plumbing's the big one, and for some reason they just have more female toilets. But I don't know how they do that.
I mean, the stadium is sponsored by British Gas, so they know a couple of plumbers, I'm sure. Anyone else have any bright ideas on how to make Murrayfield better?
Well, sorry, on you go, Mark.
I was just going to say, I don't. Beyond the obvious, which is the plumbing, and it looks a wee bit like some kind of bomb shelter underneath the stands. But beyond that, I mean, I've been to most of the others, and I don't recall them being better in any way, apart from the toilet thing, which I'm talking about. I don't know what else you do with a stadium with 80,000 people. But then I haven't been to the Millennium, so I don't know what it's principality. So I don't know how they do it with very modern stadiums.
They actually had the second highest number of toilet complaints. Interesting. just a couple behind us. Craig, you seemed like you wanted to chip in there.
I think it's just, for me, it's more the fact of a lot of the complaints. You're talking about the prices are too high for the food and for the drink, even if it's just a fizzy water or a bottle of juice. The prices are far too high, and you could probably bring that in house rather than having your own vendors charge half the price for what they're selling, and they'd probably sell more, which would then allow them to spend some money on the toilets, etc. The toilets are the absolute pits. They need sorted out. It's gone are the days that only men go to watch rugby. I think they have to realise that this is the modern day, and 50% of the audience at Murrayfield are women, and also there's a lot of children there as well. And having toilets that I've seen kids going into the men's toilets with their dads, and it's they just look as if they're lost, because it's an absolute what's the word? You see much of humanity in the toilets of Murrayfield. So I think it's just one of those situations where there are a few little things. They don't have to change a massive amount at Murrayfield to bring the experience up to where it should be. I also believe that what they do. I'm going to hate myself for saying this, but what they do at Twickenham is quite good, where they have the wheelie stage. And when they bring the wheelie stage out and have a DJ in the middle, and it just G's the crowd up, whereas I think a lot of the music that they play prior to the game, and also a lot of the bands that they bring out and play, that they're either not listened to, or they're kind of just not bringing the crowd up to as the level that we think they should be. So I'd quite like a DJ in the middle of the middle of the park to try and get everyone, or a decent act,
Is that you offering? Actually, I've mentioned bringing the food in house, and also I researched this properly because I wasn't sure last time, but it's the Atlanta Falcons, or Falcons, as they'd say. They've got the fancy Mercedes petal roof stadium, and they brought all their stuff in house to stop people tailgating. And it's like $5 beers as opposed to what used to be $9. They also have your chain vendors, but they don't allow them to charge more, like they do in airports and whatnot. And they've noticed, that's offset a lot of the cost of the building. They've noticed a huge intake and increase in profits even.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's if you think about it, not everyone's that desperate for the most fancy food that you've ever seen in your entire life at Murrayfield. Most of the people are there for a few beers, either a burger or a hot dog, and something vegetarian, except something decent vegetarian. And then obviously you then have something decent vegetarian, which is probably just going to be vegan because they can then cover everybody. And then you don't have to pay a massive amount. I think really £18 for a very, very small pizza, or a tenner for a sausage and chips, when the chips look like they're just something you've brought out the freezer of
Breathed on them.
Iceland. I think it's pure. It's a pretty poor show, to be honest with you.
We were at the Tottenham Stadium for the American football. I took my son down to the game, and I mean, obviously the difference is it's a much more modern stadium, but it really was quite striking with inside. But the food was cheaper, and it wasn't as varied, but at least it was of decent quality. The beers were about the same price, if not slightly more, but it wasn't outrageous, and it just felt like a good day out. But improving Murrayfield, improving the stadium to the point where we don't score quite so lowly on these ratings, I think is going to be in a new stadium, and there's no money for that.
No, there really isn't.
Okay, well, I'm starting the upward curve. Oh, sorry, Mark, you.
No, I was just going to say, many years ago, in the days of the Carruthers brothers at Edinburgh, there's a pal of mine who's actually he's a venture capitalist. His whole business is refitting businesses and making them profitable. And he had always said he'd love to have the money to take on one of the Scottish clubs, and the first thing he would do is bring in consultants from one of the American franchises to make the whole experience better, because these guys have got it nailed on, right?
Yeah.
But there's a limit that you can do with the fabric of a building, the fabric of the
and the
stadium.
surrounding space without. Yeah. Right, we'll start the slightly upward curve of news. Quick Celtic Challenge update. I think you guys covered the first 1872 game just before we went off for Christmas. So Edinburgh, obviously second game's been cancelled, so rescheduled, not cancelled. So both Glasgow and Edinburgh are one game behind the other teams who've all played 4. Edinburgh have got a 2-1 win-loss record at the moment. They've had victories over Glasgow, like I mentioned, and the Brighton Thunder, but they lost at the weekend to the Clovers of Ireland. I did have the score written down, I thought, but I don't. Glasgow, unfortunately, they're 0-3 this weekend. They just lost narrowly with the last play of the game, or near the end, away to Gwalia Lightning. So hopefully things will improve there. But here comes some of the good news, guys. You ready? Let's get rid of those January blues. Okay, so firstly, I will tell you, there's 3 recipients of the John McPhail Scholarship. Those you don't know, it's like a SRU-funded scholarship where players go overseas to train, at elite levels. So previous recipients of this include John Barclay, Finn Russell, Grant Gilchrist, and Johnny Gray. Pretty sure Finn Russell went to New Zealand for his.
Yeah.
So the 3 selected for this year, they're all 18-year-old lads. There's Oliver Furness, he's a back row at Peebles. Angus Wright, prop at Stirling County, you'll be pleased to hear, Craig.
Yeah.
And Harriet Centre, Sandy Rennick, they're going over to the famed Stellenbosch Academy down in South Africa. So best of luck to them. Anyone knows them, pass on our regards, and send us a postcard to give us a bit of an update. I don't know. Lad, do you know anything about these lads, gentlemen?
I unfortunately don't. I've been out the loop so much at this moment. I do apologise.
No, I'm the same, but there's a very high strike rate from the McPhail Scholarship becoming high quality players. So was it Uber's getting better? Uber Eats is getting better, Craig.
Actually, that's just reminded me of something which I've not written down, but a rumour I read, I don't know if it's true. Sam Hidalgo-Klein. See, it fits in with people going overseas. Sam Hidalgo-Klein apparently is looking to take opportunity of the new what do you call it? I don't know. He can go and play for Spain basically because his dad's Spanish, right? So that sounds like an interesting one. I mean, he's
He'll
had
be
to
playing
put
great when he'll be playing great when he hears there's a new country in for him. Isn't that how his career goes?
Well, he's what's it? I was surprised. Well, he obviously didn't get anywhere in Italy when he tried it. So, but it'll be interesting to see if he can illegally win a European Cup or some sort of competition for Spain.
I was kind of surprised we didn't see him at the World Cup actually, because I had figured he was out in the Scotland setup long enough to get into the Spain setup for that. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, he's got to be getting on now, though, isn't he?
I don't know, maybe only about 31, maybe.
Not compared to me, obviously.
Yeah, it's all relative. We'll look that up just while I read this.
I'm on it.
Cool, good lad. So here's the good news. We'll start with
You've been promising us good news here.
We're reaching the good. Craig, you are gonna just the ending. You're just gonna like touche, sir.
Is this about going better?
No,
this is like one, by the way.
I was right. First, we'll stay this side, my side of the motorway for the moment.
Glasgow.
Josh Mackay's love of the outdoors looks like it might keep him in Glasgow. He's in negotiations over contract, but he's also launched a YouTube channel. What the hell is that noise?
Somebody's phone is going off or something like that.
Right.
Not the cat purring, is it? He's beside the microphone.
No, I thought it was maybe lapping. The cat was maybe lapping.
Is it my fizzy water that's near the microphone? Hang on.
That may be. Right, cool.
I'll move it away from the microphone. Sorry, folks.
We've comboed that. That's good work. No, but Josh Mackay, he's started a YouTube video where he goes out to the West Coast and he goes like scallop diving and things like that. So you know,
yeah.
Right, and sticking with it, this kind of theme, and this is a bit you're going to start liking, Craig.
Okay.
You know, somebody else who likes it around here a bit. Oh, and you got your little Christmas present, a little Boxing Day aperitif. Aperitif before. Thing after, right? A wee sorbet. Pierre Schumann has signed a new 3-year deal with Edinburgh. Craig, the delight. I mean, he loves it here.
I think that's up Yeah, I think it was. I think there's two things are happening here. A, Pierre Schumann is Scottish, no matter what anyone seems to think in his accent, because he is absolutely just sank his life into Scotland, and well done to him, and my love affair continues. And the second thing is Scotland had to pay him decent money because we need props. To have someone like that who's got a very good chance of going on an Alliance tour, and is probably in the top 5, if not top 10 props in the world. The SRU had to keep him. So they've obviously. I'm hoping they've broken the bank to keep him, and we'll see what happens. We can talk about Edinburgh and whether Edinburgh is a good place for him to be. But I'm glad he's still in Scotland. And for me, being an Edinburgh fan, I'm pleased he's going to stay with Edinburgh.
And also his deputy Darcy Ray, has also signed on. He's signed a contract extension for 2 years. Pretty sure I think they're both 30. So they're at sort of peak age. Have you been happy with Darcy Ray's input since he came back up from England?
I don't know what our two dear friends that have joined us today what their opinion is. I'll be negative for a little while because I'm usually bring the negative when I'm on this podcast. I was not a fan. I've never been a fan. I've felt that he's an old school prop, as in he can go into a scrum and push, and that's about it. However, I've seen a development with him when I don't know whether he just needs game time or something, but he's been doing all right with Edinburgh. So, and that doesn't say much, to be honest. But he's been doing all right with Edinburgh. So fingers crossed. He's been given a chance in a home for another couple of years, and we'll see what happens.
I've also just realised he's not his deputy at all because Darcy is a tight head.
Yes.
I was going to say.
Well, I have corrected myself before we get letters. Sorry,
listen, you were about
folks,
to get belters.
It's not just screws. Lefty loosey, tighty righty. Right?
No hard.
So remember. Yeah.
The loose head wears a 1 or a 17 and the tight head wears a 3 or an 18.
See,
that's the other way to remember it.
Have I asked this before? And so I don't get why is the hooker 16 rather than 17?
Because when they added the extra player, the extra sub, most nations just put the hooker at 16 and made the hooker 16 as the extra player. The French put it on at the end, and their hooker is 23. Their sub hooker generally.
They do that with the flankers, with like the South Africans as well. Jesus, why did I have to make it so complicated? I don't know. Allan Dale's left Glasgow. I'm not really. Allan Dale, allegedly the handsomest man in rugby, handsomest prop in rugby. He's left Glasgow. He wasn't getting any game time. I was surprised and a wee bit confused when he was signed by Glasgow because it was just one of those typical SRU. We'll bring somebody back up from England.
British and Irish Lion, Allan Dale.
Yes, with a 100% scrum penalty winning
against
rate
the head.
Against the head as well. Yeah, but it's not. Well, possibly like Craig says, an old school prop, but he's not really. He's that lightweight for an old school prop. He's just not as good as the other ones we have, so you won't get in game time. Good luck, Allan, wherever you go.
He kind of came, he did his best, and there's players better than him now, but yeah. It was all right. Allan Dale did a job.
I liked him well enough as a player, but I was surprised that Glasgow signed him at this end of his career.
Yeah,
Glasgow. I didn't see a place where Glasgow needed Allan Dale beyond possibly a coaching spot, but that was all.
See, I'd also heard when he was leaving Edinburgh. I will not name my source. His contract was up at Edinburgh, and I think they were possibly bringing in the likes of Schoeman at the time. And they're sort of like, well, SRU said, do you want to go to Glasgow? And he was like, no. He felt like he was loyal to Edinburgh and felt like he couldn't play for Glasgow. This is a rumour I've heard from a staunch Edinburgh fan, so it might be a lie.
But was he not in, I think I know your source, but was he not at London Irish when Glasgow signed him? So at that stage, it was kind of like there wasn't an awful lot of choices, and therefore can we get him? Can I get a payday? Which is fair enough,
But can't remember. I do remember he'd gone down south and that.
He was at London Irish, and he was playing well at London Irish.
Hitting his peak. Right, so I think that's me with my news. Do you guys have anything to add?
Just that George Horn and Bo Inventor have been voted the Players of the Month for December, if I'm right in saying. And George Horn was regularly Player of the Month for Glasgow, so I don't mean to skip over him, but I will. But Bo Inventor, has really come on as a prop for Edinburgh, and I have to say he's been in the shadows of many of the sort of superstar props that were playing in Edinburgh, and he
tried scoring Bo Inventor, in fact.
Exactly, yeah, and that's the sort of thing that I really do think he's got this award for, because he's doing what a lot of Edinburgh players need to do, and that is pull their big boy pants on and get on with it. And he's very much in the loose. He's been doing a great job. And when you watch him up close, going into contact, I certainly wouldn't want to be out in the rugby field trying to stop him getting across the try line. So well done to both George Horn and Bo Inventor.
But can Boinventer put a grubber kick through to put a player through, Craig? I mean, that's the thing for Edinburgh props now. That's the standard by which they're all going to be measured.
But he got you onto it himself as well, you know. He started the move and finished it like Lionel Messi. So he did.
What you've got to understand here is there's props, there's international props, and then there's pure human. So I can't, I can't. Although he seems to be growing his hair back, which I'm not entirely sure I'm that desperate to see, because I wasn't, the long hair smelled lovely, but it never. I wasn't so sure. I'm a big fan of the long hair.
It fits his kind of golden retriever energy, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it certainly does. Absolutely.
Well, Mr. Schumann, of course. I suppose this is the big news, and we might have to rush this through. He's in the Scotland squad, the Scotland squad for the Six Nations, or the first 2 rounds, I believe. Well, it's weird though, because he can just make changes. I don't know why I say, this is for the first 2 rounds, when he can make a change whenever like, as long as they're injured. The Scotland squad's been announced. I've actually not written any notes for this, but I'm going to look through it all and then be like, new person. I think obviously the back line, the backs and the strength of the backs we know about. The pack, particularly the front row, is maybe a little bit untested. It's the strength and depth that's a real issue. Loose heads wise, we have Mr. Schumann, Rory Sutherland, another British and Irish line. Who else was there? Jamie Batty, he's made the cut there. Hookers. Now, this is one of the fascinating selections which will be discussed. Ewan Ashman is obviously in the squad, with George Turner being away in Japan. He's almost first choice now, it would seem. Patrick Harrison, Edinburgh, young buck who's coming along fine. Dylan Richardson, who can also cover the back row, which means, and of course the return of Dave Cherry, who may or may not have fallen downstairs drunk at the World Cup. All we know is he was excluded from the squad for disciplinary reasons. There's lots of theories out there. I'm not saying that's one. Tom English actually wrote that in his Six Nations preview piece. That's where Mr. Cherry was last seen in the Scotland squad.
Home from the World Cup.
I mean, officially at the time, Townsend said he was sent home because he'd been concussed in the incident and he wouldn't be fit to play again in a reasonable timescale, which just made me think that Scotland were finally managing the disciplinary press things much better.
See, there was rumours all about, but one of the less scandalous ones was I think it was Johnny Beattie, and you feel like you can trust Johnny Beattie. He said that Dave Cherry had been drinking rosé down at the beach all day and got hammered, and that led to it. I didn't know was there an official statement saying that he'd fallen down the stairs. There was other things, but anyway.
No,
more importantly,
I don't know about the official statement. I think they said there was. Everyone was talking about he'd fallen downstairs.
But this is the question. So I think Ashman is first choice. Johnny
Richardson
Matthews has been
second, hasn't he?
I would think so, but the exclusion of Johnny Matthews for, say, 34-year-old Dave Cherry, who's not going to, probably not going to survive another World Cup cycle, is he? When Matthews is a well-known try scorer. I've heard rumours that the Scotland coaching team don't rate Matthews scrummaging, but I mean, surely for the other facets, it's, I don't know how important the job of hooker is at scrum time. I don't know if you gentlemen can maybe enlighten me, but surely the other facets of his game mean that he should be at least in sort of squad rotation. Craig.
Well, I'm very, very interested to hear what the other guys have got to say for it, but I'll keep it short because I could go on at my length. I think Johnny Matthews is a phenomenal club player, and he stands out at Glasgow. But every time I've seen him unless he's against a minnow team. I've seen him play for Scotland. He's kind of, not performed. Okay, fair enough. He didn't get a lot of time on the field, but the last game he played, which is in the Autumn Nations, he was awful. So, and I don't mean that the wrong way. I'm not sitting here just because he's a Glasgow player that I'm bringing him down.
Yeah, I think I gave him a 4. Let's put it like that.
Yeah, and I think he's. Well, I was going to say, funnily enough, he's not in the squad because he's on the older side of players. And then Dave Cherry pops up, which blows my argument right out the window. But I think, but then I don't think Dave Cherry should be in the squad anyway. I don't actually think we need to take 4. We need to name 4 hookers. I think we probably would have been better naming more other players rather than hookers. I think the 3 hookers that we have in Harrison, Ashman, and Richardson, I think would do the job very, very well. So. Anyway, I'll stay. I'm interested to hear what Mark and Allan have got to say for it, but I think for me, I'm not going to miss Johnny Matthews in the Scotland squad, and I'm sorry, the Weege. That's my opinion.
If you don't mind, gents, I'm going to actually skip forward because push for time a little. Mark, I'll ask you locks wise. Sorry, Craig, I'm skipping tight heads. It's Sander, and then there's a massive drop off. Right, it's just Will Hurd and Darcy Ray.
That's quite good.
Elliot Miller-Mills has been cut. I don't know if he's injured. I should have looked that up. I'll do that next time. I've been in a rush, all right. I was at the dentist earlier, and then I went and played badminton. Lock, Scott Cummings, Grant Gilchrist, seems to be the preferred pairing at the moment, but there is a return for Johnny Gray. No Alex Craig, Max Williamson's unfortunately injured, and Marshall Sykes has got himself a call up. Mark, Johnny Gray coming in from the wilderness after, requesting to leave, not be included. You happy to see him back, or would you think the preferred option there is going to be?
No, I think Johnny Gray brings something still to the team. I think the kind of rugby that Bordeaux are playing is the kind of rugby that Scotland want to play very probably, and Gray's a big part of that. I was listening to a podcast earlier today where they were discussing the pros and cons of starting Gilchrist and Gray and having Cummings on the bench. Where my immediate reaction was start Gilchrist and Cummings and have Gray on the bench. Sykes, I've always kind of liked Sykes because he's a big unit, but I didn't think he was mobile enough. And I'm kind of surprised to see him over Skinner.
He's also a penalty machine.
Yeah.
I'm surprised to see him over Skinner. I thought Skinner maybe brings a wee bit more versatility. But yeah, I'm kind of ambivalent about that. I'm not. I think Sykes will play against Wales.
We're holding it back.
We'll save that for having
the Sykes will come on against the minnow team. Wales.
You know that some Welsh people like us, right? If they want to hear slang, they have to pay for it.
I only say that because I don't think he'll start. I think if Italy was not our first game, he would have come on against Italy. But I think Townsend will go full noise against Italy for very obvious reasons.
Yeah, want to get off to a good start. The back row, even without Andy Onyama Christie, it's Scotland's sort of strongest area, which is why, Craig would say, I don't think why we needed 4 hookers when Dylan Richardson, he's taken probably because he's versatility, but, I think he should just be a specialist hooker. Luke Crosby, Josh Bayliss, Rory Darge, who's a vice-captain, Matt Fagerson, my boy. Jack Dempsey's back, the ageing Australian, as Craig sometimes calls him meanly. Jamie Ritchie and Jack Mann, uncapped Jack Mann, making his first appearance in a squad, I think. I don't know if he's even called up to a squad before, but he's been going great guns. The first time I saw Jack Mann actually was I was doing a Super 6 game. It was my first time at Bridge Hall, and it was roasting. It was one of those summer sprint ones, My car was baking afterwards. And it was the first time I'd seen Jack Mann and playing for Heriots against County. And he went on, there was a turnover ball, sort of between the 10 and 22 metres of his own try line. And he just went off probably faster than most centres do. And I went speaking to Finn Gus afterwards, I was like, he's ridiculously fast. He was like, yeah, he's a professional rugby player. He'd been at Edinburgh before, and he's just had such a nightmarish time with injuries. He's been on the books at Glasgow since last year as well, and he just can't seem to get a run of games together. But it's just reward for it's been a bit of a breakout season. He's put a few performances together so far, so it's good for him. But Allan, back row, arguably Scotland's strongest in terms of strength and depth, our strongest area.
I think you're absolutely right, Iain. And actually, I'm looking at the depth chart that Mark kindly did for us on the squad, and obviously the first choice back row looks like it'll be Ferguson, Darge, and Dempsey. But even if you took them out of the equation, between Richie Mann, Crosby, Brown, and Bayliss, you've got an excellent back row there.
Yeah.
That's it says something where you could look just at the not first choices and say, yep, I'd be happy with them turning out for Scotland. So yeah, I think back row is fantastic. Your point about Dylan Richardson and not needing them with the back row, I think there's a point with versatility within the squad.
6-2 splits.
You need versatility within the bench, and that's where Dobie and Kinghorn really give a lot. And actually, Tom Jordan now as well. Covering multiple positions has now become the new second 5/8 or playmaking inside centre.
Yeah, because we used to sort of complain that people were getting played out of position, but if the skill set's there, then why not? To the backs then, scrum halves, we have George Horn. Ali Price has not been included. George Horn, Jamie Dobie, as Alan was saying, this man, he can play on the wing as well if required. And Ben White, who's probably the incumbent of the number 9 jersey. No real surprises there, I would say, gents. Then to our standoff options. Finn Russell, vice captain, obviously one of the greatest, best players in the world. Is there a better fly half in World Rugby at the moment? I don't think so, to be honest. Then there's Tom Jordan, who could fill in there. But interestingly, New Zealand-born Saracens player, uncapped Fergus Burke. Now, this is one that had been rumoured for a while. Who wants to take this one? I've not seen a lot of them, to be honest, but Mark McCall and Scott Robertson both raved about him. What can we expect from Fergus Burke?
Craig, you've got the BT Sports package, haven't you? Do you see a fair bit of Premiership?
I've watched a fair bit of Burke playing, and he was shaky when he first started for Saracens, and then seems to be coming to the fore with Saracens. I didn't realise he's only 24. So, and we've also got to remember, and I think it was mentioned in a previous podcast, that we could name that Tom English is involved with, but I don't want to advertise other people. They were talking that Mark, a lot of people have mentioned Mark McCall, etc., have said how he is quite a fantastic player, and they're quite impressed with him down there. He also played for the Crusaders. So I think it's one of those situations. I've got a real problem, and I have a little bit of a concern about it all. I think he'll come on, and we'll see how we get along with it. But funnily enough, we had a project player that we brought in, and we promised him the world. We capped him, and then he disappeared, and that's Ben Healy. And I'm not saying that Ben Healy deserves to be in the squad, because he's hardly played any games for Edinburgh this season. But why are we doing this to these players when, for example, Ross Thompson, who, you know, everyone raved about on the West Coast when he played for them, and everyone said he was the second coming. And remember, I think he was third. He was third in line for the 10 shirt, in front of Finn Russell two or 3 years ago. If you remember that, a few years ago. So
the biggest moment of hubris of all time, yes.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's one of those situations where he's not even getting a chance to go into camp. And so when I say about Dave Cherry being chosen to go in as a fourth hooker, you know, yes, if you want to bring Fergus Burke in and you want to cap him and secure him as maybe the future 10 for Scotland, and you know, because everyone is saying that he is that good. Surely you want to bring a Scottish-born player through at the same time and give him opportunities to. And I'm not going to fall down the trap of, you know, all these players coming in and taking Scottish players' places, because, you know, if he wants to be Scottish, as John Anderson would say, he's Scottish. And he obviously qualifies, because he's not going to qualify under residency, so he obviously qualifies through a granny or a grandmother. So,
yeah.
And if we're about to start stamping our feet about bringing him over and this, that, and the other, well, we've got a Glasgow captain and a Scotland captain who, not a Glasgow captain, but a Scotland captain who qualified as a grandmother, and they brought his grandmother over, and we all just about greeted. You know, we're all greeting about how perfect that Scottish granny was. So I think we have to be careful in that one. But I do find it very difficult to say, like, you know, Townsend seems to have these project players that he brings in caps, and then you know what happens to them. And I really do feel quite bad for Ben Healy, who left, was promised the world, left Munster, and actually, you know, could have, and Munster fans were gutted that he left, and you don't know where he would be now if he'd stayed. So I'm concerned he's been wasted, you know.
Yeah,
but
he wasn't cheap either. So yeah, just saying, he probably wasn't cheap either.
No.
But does Healy's form merit inclusion? That's the thing, because he's not really playing now. There might be reasons for that aren't related to form, but I've not really seen him. And I don't watch as much Edinburgh as you do, Craig, but I've not really seen him do anything of enough note to put him ahead of someone like Burke.
Well, the thing is, we know what he's good at. You know, we know he's a very good kicker. You know, he's like a turbo.
Yeah, but when he was playing for Munster and he was in Munster's game plan, he was incredibly good. People liked him, and he's obviously been picked up by Townsend because he was good. The problem we have, and well, you know, I don't mean to bang my continual drum, is that he's been put into an Edinburgh system that's failed him. And whether we talk about the fact that it's game plan, it's coaching, or it's a club culture, whatever one of those three you want to pick and you want to point the finger at, the Edinburgh system has failed them, because there's no way that you've got someone who's come across by Townsend, who Townsend has brought him over and enticed him to come and get a Scotland cap and given him his Scotland cap and everything. You've got a Scotland cap 10 who's sitting on an A bench and going away to play, you know, down in the Borders, etc. There's nothing wrong with the Borders, but he's away to play an A game on a Wednesday night. I think it's and people, you know, there's lots of reasons why, and I'm not going to sit and repeat them, but there are, you know, people have talked about. There's a reason why he's gone, because he's not. He from what we know, he's not, whether it's not getting on with the coach or whether he's speaking his mind and he shouldn't speak his mind, or whatever it is, he's fallen out of favour. And the problem I have is that you can't do that to these players and expect, because this will continue, and we're going to have a set of 10s who have played for Scotland who have had 1 to 5 caps, and because we keep going and finding the latest, greatest thing, and then ruin them by getting them close to Edinburgh. Well, not so much Glasgow at the moment, you know.
Obviously, one of the problems with Adam Hastings, again, the most unfortunate man with injuries. Whenever he comes to Glasgow, he seems cursed. He's going to miss another 6 Nations after getting his face broken. In the backs, it seems a bit light, but as we were saying here about versatility, obviously the starting centres, we're going to have to wrap this up pretty quick. Huey Piloto is going to be starting centres. You get Staffy McDowell, Rory Hutchison, and Matt Curry as backups. Again, 6-2 splits, it might depend who gets picked there. Then in the back three, now of course I had, when the squad was announced and I didn't see the name Kyle Stain, my pitchfork was sharpened to a deadly point and covered in poison. But, you know, I get tempered when I found out he's injured and he'll be back soon. But yeah, back three, we've got Darcy Graham, love Darcy, Blair Kinghorn, Duhan van der Merwe, and Kyle Rowe, Mr. Versatile. I mean, I think those, like I said, Huey Piloto is one of the best centre partnerships in the world. I think they both complement each other so well. Sioni's playing out of his skin. I also think Hugh Jones is in the form of his life at the moment. I've never seen him so consistently, you know, in terms of try scoring and just his line breaks. His reading of the game is wonderful. A bit interested to see Staff McDowell because he's not played that often for Glasgow and got suspended. I didn't see that instant in particular. I did see it, but the footage wasn't decisive, should we say. Right, so like I said, I mean, obviously we know Finn Russell's going to start at 10. We think we know the back three. Bench options. Mark, if you're going a 5-3, tell me your 5-3 and 6-2 bench options.
The 5-3 kind of picks itself. You know,
do you go Horn or Dobie?
Interestingly, if it's a 5-3, I go Horn.
Yeah.
But that's making the assumption I wouldn't select Horn to start.
Oh, yes, I've assumed Ben White. I think
Ben White is not starting for too long at the moment. I could easily make an argument for starting Horn. But if you're starting White and a 5-3, then I think you're going with George Horn. Probably at that stage, Jordan and looking at that, Kyle Rowe maybe. Staying if he's fit.
Yep. And for 6-2, which two backs would you take? Then I think you've got to go Dobie Jordan. I would go.
Yeah, that's basically it. Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah.
Dobie Jordan or 6-2, or do anyone else have anything?
Dobie Jordan.
5-3, Craig. Where would you go? If we're assuming, I'm assuming Ben White starting 9.
Yeah. Well, if you assume that that's happening, then obviously you're going to have. I can't disagree with Mark. You're going to have George Horn as your 9 cover. You're going to have Tom Jordan, who's going to cover your 10, and you're going to cover your fullback. And then you decide on what you're going to have, whether you're going to have Dobie or you're going to have Rowe there to cover the rest of the positions. Tom Jordan could also come in at 12 or 13 if at a push. However, in my wee dream world, I would love to see Rory Hutchison get some time, because I think Hutchison, that he fits well in Northampton Saints team, because they're all running rugby, and he is he's a bit like what's his name, not Teddy Thomas,
Fiku?
No, the other. It's not bit. I love him to bits. The French winger plays for
Pinot?
But Pinot, Damien Pinot. You know, he's got a lot. He's got this sort of run that looks like he's going slow, but he's actually going incredibly fast. And then he can pass off both hands and millimetre pass into people's hands. I'm thoroughly impressed with him. I just think, obviously, Tuipulotu and Hugh Jones have got it sewn up, unless one of them, touchwood, awful, terrible thing happens that they get injured. But I think it would be lovely to see. So maybe in my dream world it would be Horn, Tom Jordan, and Rory Hutchison, but I'm not sure they would ever do that.
Hutchison could maybe play 10 as well. Cover 20.
He's played 10 for Northampton Saints before. Yeah.
I think he's just unfortunate that when he's come along. Firstly, there was Chris Harris playing at Eastskin as a sort of defensive linchpin, and now you've got Hughie Pelotu. But anyway, we're over time. I'm probably going to get shouted at by Rory and Johnny. But gentlemen, thank you for joining me and helping with this chat. Thank you for listening. Or it says there's 6 people watching. I don't know if that's accurate. It might even be just our own screens. I don't know. Anyway, thank you again. We apologise for being so long. We'll be back with some Patreon stuff afterwards. Oh yes. Now, it's not ready yet, but we'll tell you about something I'm working on in the Patreon section. For now, cheerio. Lads, we'll go in alphabetical order. Alan, say goodbye.
Bye.
Craig.
Bye.
Bye.
I actually said say goodbye and you all said bye, so you all fail. Anyway, cheers. Bye. Wait, do I need to tick these or something?
Yeah, just deselect some of them.
So is there a